Those that don't know, because my boy represented with his Rangers shirt today, so I will go ahead and go into the baseball side of things, because it's actually part of my talk. So actually, those that don't know, I grew up in Houston, H-Town. So that's why I am an Astro fan. Those that don't want to like that, y'all can not like it, that's fine with me. So, yeah, cheaters, you can say all you want. So that's when I bring up my point, actually. So when that was going down and people knew I was a believer, Mike, how in the world? Wait a minute. I just forgot. God just reminded me. You know what? I haven't prayed yet. Let's pray real quick and get into the word real quick. So let me do that first. Let's do that. All right, everybody bow your heads. Jesus, I just ask that you put this on their hearts, Father. You've given me this message. There is something that somebody needs here, Father, and I pray that you would deliver that to their hearts. Take whatever thoughts, mindset that I have and take that away, Father, and put what you want them to hear, Father. What you want them to hear in this message, let it relate to them. Let it be about them and the relationship you have with them. Let it be not about Mike, but about Jesus. Amen. All right, so when I was 5 years old, the first thing that my mom ever took me to was a baseball game at the Astrodome in Houston, Texas. So when people asked me, how can you still like the Astros after they cheated? Well, my joke back was that, well, I've known them longer than I've known Jesus because I got saved at 17. So that's why I stuck with the Astros. I forgave them. I prayed a lot about it, and that's where I went. So all that to say this, I don't know if y'all know what baseball looks at like before now, but before the excitement was that you went to the baseball park to possibly get a foul ball, to possibly get that home run ball from whoever it might be, Corey Seager, whoever it might be. You're sitting in the stands, you're waiting for that foul ball, right? And I was excited about that from the time I was 5 all the way up, right? But when you had to look for that foul ball, you had to pay attention. You had to look. You couldn't get hit by the ball. And more people were getting hit by the ball for a lot of different reasons. There were small kids. They were looking at their kids. They were looking at all this stuff. The biggest thing I saw was people were taking selfies instead of watching the ball game. And at first I was like, well, that's just, what is that? And I prayed to God, why in the world would they be at a place like the Rangers ballpark and be taking a selfie? Because for my generation, that was unheard of, right? And also, I was like, no more foul balls. Oh, my gosh, that's wrong. Well, I figured out that people taking selfie and want to show what they're experiencing, and it wasn't about them not getting hit or something like that. It was about the fact that they were proud of the moment they were in. And I didn't actually put that in perspective until then, where I was thinking about this. So I started to think about it from that perspective. They want themselves to be a part of it. You don't want to sit there and watch the ball players on the field. You want to be a part of it. You want to take the selfie. You want to take the picture. You want to take the picture with your friend. All that. You want to be a part of it. They want to resonate with it. They want it to be part of their story. They want it something bigger than themselves. They want that part of them to be bigger than themselves. That would never be heard of. You would have talked to me at 13 and said, hey, let's go to the Astrodome so it's bigger than me. I would have never thought of that. I'd have been like, what? And so that's kind of the same as catching the foul ball, but you do it every game, right? When you catch the ball, that's bigger than you. But when you're taking a selfie with a friend, you've already made the big thing, right? So, and the thing is, and I had to realize this, it's also about what you like to do. It's about forming your individual, I don't want to say identity, but it's about your own path. What is it that you want to see? Like, what do you want to do? What do you want to walk like? What do you want to talk like? It's about what you're interested in. It's about your story, not about the story on the ball field. What you're wearing, who you're with, even friends that you might not see at all, that in different places because of social media, that you've made friends on Instagram or whatever it might be, right? That's also a way to relate to them. The biggest thing is to express yourself and what you like, which I had none of those perspectives before I started thinking about this idea. I was like, this is some crazy stuff. And so I kind of went through this. The biggest points are to relate to you, to identify with you, to be a part of a family or group. So that's another reason, to be a part of a family or group. And that's kind of a relating to Jesus. So how many times are we proud of Jesus? And how many times do we want to do a selfie with Jesus? Do you have that moment where you're saying, oh, worship team, perfect example. I just worshiped my heart out, and I did a great job. That's a selfie with Jesus, right? That's what that is. So whatever that looks like to you, that's what a selfie like with Jesus looks like. And it's that he loves you and wants to be a part of that story with you. That's the biggest thing. He doesn't want you just to walk through the story and not have a relation to him and not have that story with him and not know that relationship. Go ahead and put up Romans 5:8. All right. But God demonstrates for his own love, for in this, while we were sinners, Christ died for us. Kind of going what Pastor Josh talked about for Easter. Have you wrapped your brain around that? Even when God didn't even know you, he died for you. That's huge. That is, in my opinion, the biggest thing that he did as far as a selfie with him and a relationship with him is no matter what you were dealing with, like I said. So my best friend witnessed to me from the time I was 9 years old until I was 17. I was the dumbest guy you'd ever known about Jesus, and finally I accepted Jesus in my house, in my bedroom, by myself. So Jesus can reach you wherever you are. It don't matter. It can be in your bedroom. It can be in this room. It can be anywhere as long as you're opening your ears to what he might say. The sinner is you and me. That is what we were before he came. He wanted to know you even before he knew anything about you. And the biggest thing is, when we fail, he shows us love, not judgment. That's the big thing to get your mind wrapped around. I did not get that around my mind for decades. Jesus is not about the aha, where you fail. And he's like, oh, there he is. The mic just messed up again. That's not how Jesus is. I had this great illustration from another mentor of mine where he said, the way to picture it is Jesus is sitting right beside God in the throne room. And he's saying, you know what? Mike just messed up. He failed. He didn't do the right decision. He had A or B. He picked B. And he doesn't say, why did Mike pick B? Why? He says, hey, God, Mike picked B. That's going to be a hard learning time. That's going to be a hard time that he's going to have to deal with it for emotionally. But we're going to be there for him. We're going to be there and walk him through those steps. He never leaves you in that. He says, I'm going to love you through that. So that's the thing to remember, is he never wants to judge you in that moment. Because you're already, if you're like me, I'm already judging myself up and down. So God doesn't want to do that. God wants to say, I'm wanting to lift you up in that moment. I'm going to pick you up rather than push you down. 1 John 4:19 says, we love because he loved us. So, we show love to others in words, action, and prayer. So, that's hard sometimes. It's hard to show love. Sometimes that word is hard, like I said, because it can be where you can love somebody that you like. That's easy. You can love a family member. That's easy. But love is also loving the guy that you don't like. Loving the guy that's saying everything you don't even want to talk about. You still got to love that person. And it's hard to do that. And the biggest thing is this church has taught me, those that don't know, so I came from a I studied to be a Southern Baptist preacher, if y'all can't tell. So I can talk for days. Y'all got to like jingle the keys to make sure I know that the Cowboy game is about to start, stuff like that. But I never really related the words of God to the prayer of God until I came in this building, until these buildings here and the mentors I have in this church. And the mentors in this church taught me that when I didn't have any words, when I couldn't come up with the words because I couldn't figure out how to pray for a person, if they're going through a hard struggle or if they're saying stuff I don't agree with or any of those things, they said, find a verse. Pray a verse over them. I never thought of that because it was like where I was like, okay, that my quiet time is my quiet time, my teaching is my teaching, and then my prayer life's over here. So I never thought of bridging that with the scriptures and in the right heart with God. You also do it with actions as far as prayer. I think he's not here in the room anymore. He might be. I think he's back there hiding. So one of my mentors, Mr. Pastor Jonathan, which I wasn't expecting him to be in the room, he has a phrase that I use, and it actually opens doors and barriers that you have no idea with people, that especially for what we're doing with Easter coming up. If somebody says, hey, Mike, I'm struggling with something right now, the temptation is to say, Mike, that's fantastic. I'm so busy. I got this test, that test, that test. I got baseball. I got basketball. I got all this stuff that I'm doing. I'll pray for you when I get home. And you walk away. How many of us actually pray when we get home? I'll be honest, I forget sometimes. So Pastor Jonathan had a great thing. He's like, pray right there. Pray right then and there. And the crazy thing is, it encourages your prayer life, but it also, you just don't even know. You watch the person go, what, you're going to pray for me right now? And it takes the guard and everything, even if they're non-Christian, it takes the guard away completely. And it's a great tool to just open the conversation. That's the biggest thing. Ephesians 6:18 says, and pray in the Spirit on all occasions with all kinds of prayers and requests. With this in mind, be alert and always keep praying for all the Lord's people. So also, as far as your prayer life, late at night, pray for God, pray for others. You know, the ones that we're talking about, the ones that you just put on your card, pray for those. Pray for your family members. Pray for anybody. So back to my testimony a little bit. I got saved at 17 because my family is not Christians. So it took a long time for me to get it because I was not in that environment. So, and my family is still not believers, and I've prayed for decades on it. So that doesn't mean that those prayers are without fruit. That means that those prayers are consistent and continued, and you keep going. And that's the best thing you can do for somebody is pray for them. So keep that in mind. So back to that 17-year-old boy that was sitting in his room, and most people think I'm crazy because I didn't go to a church service and get saved that way. I got saved in my 17-year-old room, and it was one of those things where God had prepared my heart, and I was flipping through the channels on a Sunday morning, and it was a televangelist that most people say, okay, a televangelist really is going to speak the word? I'm like, well, this one evidently had a little bit of a message that got a little bit of fruit. So it was actually a verse in the Bible, in Revelation, that says, behold, I stand at the door and knock, and whoever hears my voice and answers, I will come in and eat with that person, and they with me. So I was sitting there in my room, and I looked over at my closet door, because I was facing that closet door, and I thought about God, just me opening the closet door, and then him walking in, and sitting down, and eating with me, and living with me. And that to me was huge. That was bigger than anything because I was so isolated, and so my family didn't understand what I was going through. My friends didn't understand what I was going through. I felt so alone. And the only person in that moment that could have reached me was Jesus. And he did that in a prayer in my bedroom. So my first challenge to you is, or not a challenge, but just a question. When you're home, when you're alone in your house and you pray, sometimes it's hard. I'm not going to lie. I did just recently. I was very, very angry with God. I'll be honest on that too. I had a construction company, basically, lack of a better word, hustle my family, take money and walk away, and left my house in shambles. And so I was mad. I was like, God, why did this happen to me and my family? Because I was like, this is my wife. This is my kids. And I was dealing with that for months. And so God was hearing me, but there was a barrier. And I couldn't figure out what that barrier was until late one night. I was laying in my bed, and I just had this simple thought. You know what? I'm angry with you, God. And that's okay. God can take it. I promise. God can take when you're honest with him and that you say, you know what, God, I don't like what's going on right now. I'm angry with you. And that barrier went completely away. It just went like that moment went away. And at that point, God was like, okay, are you ready now to hear what I have to say? Because at that point, he wants to wait for when you're ready. He's not going to do it when he thinks that you need it. He's going to do it whenever you're ready, when your heart is ready for it.